My life changed the day I discovered the shocking secret about the blind children of a millionaire. I will never forget that moment. The weight of the truth crashed down like a heavy thunderclap, sending shivers down my spine. I stood there, my heart racing, caught between disbelief and horror. The mansion loomed behind me, like a dark castle etched against the skyline. It felt alive, pulsing with secrets. The sprawling grounds seemed to whisper tales of extravagance and hidden pain. I could feel the chill in the air, a foreboding reminder that not all was as it seemed. Beneath the facade of wealth and luxury, something sinister brewed. There was a rumor. They said he had 3 children, all blind. Blind, but gifted. They painted vibrant landscapes in their minds, or so people claimed. But I knew better. I'd spent years helping at the orphanage down the street, hearing the hushed whispers of the staff, the incredulous stories spinning like webs among the kids. Those children had more than just a terrible fate. They held the key to a mystery that had everyone riveted. The millionaire was hiding them away, but why? I remembered last summer, when I overheard a conversation. A group of women gossiped, their voices blending with the sound of rustling leaves. They say he's using them as experiments. My stomach twisted. Were they prisoners in their own home? I couldn't shake the image of their innocent faces, shadowed in corners, forever reaching into the dark. As I approached the iron gates, my palms were slick with sweat. The scent of jasmine mixed with the sharp stench of fear wafted in the air. I could hear the distant cries of laughter, happy sounds that felt foreign in this twisted reality. What if they weren't as innocent as they seemed? What if he had turned them into something unearthly, something dangerous? And then there was the daughter, Claire. She was brilliant, or so they said. Her art could make you weep. But there was a sadness behind her smile that gnawed at my heart. It was like she was crying out for help but couldn't see the way. I ached to know her story, to unravel the threads of her life. Little did I know, the answers I sought would lead me down a path I wasn't prepared for. Suddenly, a scream shattered the delicate night. My heart stuttered. I pressed myself against the gate, my eyes wide, breath caught in my throat. I had to know. I had to see what lay beyond this world of shadows and secrets. Fear clawed at my senses, but curiosity pulled me forward. What if I could expose the truth? What if I could save them? I held my breath, waiting for the next sound, the next revelation. But what would I find in that dark mansion? Love, fear, or tragedy? I didn't know. My hands trembled as I took my first step into the unknown. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air thickened as I steeled myself, stepping through the gate. Each footfall echoed against the cobblestones, a reminder of the reality I was willingly confronting. The mansion stood before me, grand yet oppressive, as if it were a giant hungry for whispers and secrets. With every step closer, the laughter that had once filled my ears morphed into a mocking cacophony, taunting my resolve. Once inside the cavernous foyer, shadows danced in the candlelight. It was beautiful and haunting, with a towering staircase that spiraled elegantly to the second floor. A tapestry hung on the wall, threads woven with depictions of joyful festivities that seemed out of place in this house of despair. I could feel the energy shifting, building like static before a storm. The sounds of laughter subsided, replaced with an eerie silence that coiled around me. I inhaled sharply, forcing words past my lips felt impossible. Hello. My voice trembled as it lingered in the vastness. I half expected an answer, but only silence welcomed me. Staring at the stairway, I couldn't shake the impending dread that loomed above me. It was then I heard a sound, a soft melody drifting through the air. I followed the sound, heart racing in tandem with my footsteps. The music beckoned, wrapping around me like a warm embrace. It led me to a small room, partially open, with golden light spilling out. As I edged closer, a voice spoke softly. "The world is full of color, if only you know how to see it." It was Claire. Her melodic tone held beauty and pain in equal measures. Against my better judgment, I pushed the door open to find her seated at a grand piano, her fingers delicately dancing across the keys, creating a melody that resonated deep within my soul. I was entranced not only by the music but by her hauntingly beautiful sightless gaze. Her eyes seemed to peer into another realm, reflecting a wistfulness that crushed my heart. "Why do you hide?" I blurted out, my voice quaking with emotion. The moment I spoke, I regretted it. Her expression darkened like storm clouds gathering on the horizon. "I don't hide," she replied, her fingers pausing. "This is my sanctuary." I took a step closer, desperate to connect. "But aren't you trapped? Don't you long for the world outside?" A flicker of something, a glimmer of hope, crossed her face before she closed her eyes, exhaling deeply. "You don't understand. The world is louder than it is beautiful. Sometimes it's easier to remain in the dark where music has no boundaries." Her words struck me, filling the air with an uncanny stillness. I could feel her pain wrap around me, clinging like fog. "But you have a gift," I urged, hoping to ignite a spark. "You can show people the beauty they're missing." As she turned her head slightly toward me, something broken glimmered in her expression. "Gifts can be burdens too," she said softly. "Every stroke of the brush has its price." Just as I was about to respond, a loud crash echoed from the other side of the mansion, an urgency that sent shockwaves through me. Claire's fingers danced back to the keys with a frantic rhythm, filling the room with an urgency that mirrored my own racing heart. "What was that?" I asked, dread coiling tightly in my gut. "Nothing," Claire said, her voice now firm but laced with anxiety. "Go back while you can. Please." My chest tightened at her tone, her insistence piercing through my heart. "But I can help you." "I don't need your help," she burst out, rising to her feet. "And neither do you. You can't understand what it's like being here, being us." Just then, the door swung open violently, revealing a tall figure cloaked in shadows, the millionaire himself, a storm brewing in his stormy eyes. "Claire. You know better than to let strangers in this house." Fear rushed through me, electrifying my veins as I realized I had plunged deeper into a nightmare. As I stood frozen, my breath hitching in my throat, Claire stepped protectively in front of me. "Let them go, father." The tension snapped, a wave of uncertainty crashing over us, and as the millionaire's gaze roamed between us, I knew this moment would change everything. The air was thick with unsaid words, the looming threat of violence, and an undeniable sense of foreboding that whispered of the secrets lurking beneath the surface. But as I stood there, caught between their looming battle and the truths I yearned to uncover, something inside me ignited. I couldn't walk away now. The stakes were too high, and the secrets too deep. Moments stretched painfully as the world fell silent once more, an anxious breath held in the gloom. I urged myself to remain anchored, grounded. But just as I prepared to speak again, the man's voice cut through the tension, a chilling promise lingering in the air. "This is your last warning. Leave while you still can." And then it struck me, the weight of Claire's story was entwined with my own, and as the storm raged on, so too did my resolve. I would not leave without understanding the truth, no matter the cost. The door slammed shut behind him, leaving me and Claire trapped in a world fraught with danger and darkness. Everything felt poised on the edge of a precipice, an impending revelation throbbing in the air. And as the ground shuddered beneath us, I understood that fear was but a prelude to the horrors yet to come. The silence that followed the millionaire's abrupt exit felt suffocating, wrapping around me like a thick fog. My heart pounded in my chest, reverberating against Claire's fragile vulnerability, which hung in the air like a delicate thread ready to snap. She turned back towards the piano, her fingers trembling above the keys, an echo of the lament that turmoil had stirred within her. "What happens if I stay?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper as I cautiously closed the distance between us, the air thick with unspoken fears. Claire's gaze remained unfocused, yet I felt the weight of her thoughts like a tangible force. You don't want to know, she murmured, the melody of her earlier notes now shifting into a discordant tune that mirrored her internal struggle. This place will consume you. It feeds on hope. That I was not prepared for her answer. The jagged edges of her words cut deep, unsettling the meager foundation of my resolve. It can't be that simple, I challenged, stepping into the swirling shadows of our conversation. What about the children? What about you? As I spoke, the memories of the laughter and joy once painted within these walls surged forward, a stark contrast to the dark remnants now embedded in every crack and crevice. I willed myself to see beyond the surface, to search for the color she had spoken of earlier. Her fingers paused once more, hovering in the air like a delicate bird restrained within a cage. What do you know of children who've never been free? Of neglect wrapped in opulence? Claire's voice broke, the haunting melody giving way to a raw sorrow that reverberated against the walls. We are living whispers, hidden away while the world outside spins with its chaos. He ensures we are seen but never heard. Beautiful little trophies of his shadow. The tremor in her voice ignited a spark of anger within me. Your father, he holds you captive. A flicker of pain crossed her countenance, an emotion that spoke of a lifetime of longing and loss, echoing through the chamber. He thinks he is protecting us, but it's a prison built from his fears. I was never meant to be a secret, she said fiercely, eyes aflame with defiance. Neither were the others. The swelling knot of anxiety in my stomach twisted tighter. Others? You mean there are more children like you? I'm not the only one who's blind, she replied softly, yet every syllable pulsated with urgency. There are 3 of us. Each locked away, tending to his whims as he parades his wealth before the world. He won't let us out. He thrives on controlling us. Just then, a faint sound reached my ears, soft thumps echoing from behind the closed door, like hushed whispers calling for attention. I glanced toward the door, my heart racing at the thought of what lay beyond it. Claire, I said, lowering my voice, as if speaking louder would shatter the fragile illusion of safety. What if we just left? What if we told someone? The truth could set you free. That a haunting laugh escaped her lips, bitter and hollow. And who would believe you? A stranger in a wealthy man's home? No, it's far too dangerous. Before I could respond, the melody of a new song began trilling from her fingertips, slow and tentative, a yearning for freedom that seemed to rise from the depths of despair. This is all I have, she whispered, her eyes closing as she immersed herself into the music, the haunting notes reverberating with an ache that pierced my heart. That as the sound washed over me, I began to grasp the true depth of Claire's existence, a life shackled not only by physical blindness but by the shadow of an oppressive father who cloaked the truth in silence. An urge swelled within me, fusing determination with fear. But then, the soft thump behind the door grew louder, almost as if it were Nakinga's desperate plea for something, or someone. Claire's eyes flew open, fear threading through her features. It can't be. A sharp knock shattered the air, each strike echoing with urgency. Claire! A voice called, muffled but clear, filled with distress. We need you. Please. My breath hitched, recognizing the voice as familiar. Intertwined with memories I longed to unravel in this labyrinth of darkness. It's Jessie, I gasped, the name escaping my lips before I fully comprehended the implications. Claire's expression shifted, a storm brewing in her gaze. No. They shouldn't be here if he finds them, but the resolve surged within me, igniting the fight I had in me. We can't leave them. They need us. Just as Claire started to shake her head, the door swung open, revealing Jessie, her wide eyes reflecting panic. You have to help us, Claire. He's coming. The world tilted precariously, the shadows thickening as Claire's expression morphed from surprise to dread. We can't let him see you here, she whispered urgently. Then we run, I declared, the weight of the moment unleashing a tide of adrenaline. The stakes had never been higher, the danger palpable, and yet hope flickered in the recesses of doubt. As I stepped towards Jessie, the thundering footsteps of the millionaire echoed down the hall, tearing through the veil of secrecy that cloaked us. My heart raced with an undeniable urgency. It was a race against time to find safety in this mansion that had become a labyrinth of horrors. But just as the three of us readied ourselves to flee into the unknown, a dark shadow loomed behind Jesse. The doorframe filled with a commanding presence, the familiar silhouette that sent a shudder down my spine. Going somewhere? The millionaire's booming voice resonated, each syllable dripping with threat, and in that moment, my resolve hardened. The revelations lay before us, heavy and raw, and the unseen battles were only just beginning. The air grew tense, thick with a palpable dread that coiled around my stomach. The million-dollar mask he wore cracked, revealing a man who encompassed both rage and control, eyes burning with the fire of possessiveness. "Step away from her, Jesse," he ordered, his tone icy, an echo of command that sent shivers through the very walls. Claire stiffened beside me, tugging at my arm, fear coursing through her veins. "No," I breathed, holding my ground. "We're not staying here. We won't let you." "It's you who will not decide what happens here," he interrupted sharply, taking a menacing step forward. Shadows danced at his heels, merging with the darkness that suffocated the room. "You've caused enough trouble as it is, bringing nonsense into my house." Jessie stood paralyzed, caught between her instinct to flee and her need to protect Claire. I threw a glance at Claire, whose face reflected turmoil and resilience intertwined. In that moment, the world around us blurred, everything but the urgency of our situation faded into insignificance. "Let them go," Claire whispered, her voice a teetering bridge over the chasm of fear. "They've done nothing wrong." "Oh, but they have," he spat back, a cruel smile creeping across his lips. "You see, dear Claire, nothing happens without my knowing. Your little friends are simply out of their depth, lost in the tides of my world." My heart sank as I noticed the fear brewing beneath Claire's brave facade. She was scrambling to breach the gap between the man she feared and the life she desired. "You don't know what it's like out there. You think you can control everything, but you can't control who I am," she exclaimed fiercely. With every beat of my heart, I yearned for some magic spell to protect us, to shatter the hold this man had over all of us. His laughter echoed through the air, cruel and distorted, drowning out her bravery. "You're only a whisper, remember? A whisper that has no power." Just then, a spark ignited within me, a resilience that outshone the curtains of darkness. "You underestimate her. We will fight for her freedom," I declared, my voice ringing with unexpected conviction. In the silence that followed, I felt the weight of his regard, a predator fixating on prey. "Fight? You think you're the knight in shining armor? You know nothing of the world you're meddling in. You don't understand the risks." By now, Jessie had stepped cautiously closer to Claire, her small frame radiating warmth, offering support that felt like a life raft in the storm. "We can't stay here. It's wrong. We should not have to hide," she murmured, her voice catching on a choke of emotion. "Enough," he thundered, diverting his attention back to Jessie and me. "If you think you can just waltz out with her, you have another thing coming. I will not allow you to expose my family's secrets." The challenge he issued hung heavy in the air, the unspoken confrontation stretching between us like a taut wire. But before I could muster a response or devise a plan, Claire stepped forward, determination etched into her expression. "We're not your possessions. We're not secrets to be swept under the rug." His expression turned frigid, eyes narrowing until they nearly became slits, as if assessing how to eliminate the threat we posed. The silence that followed felt endless. Then, a glimmer of movement caught my attention, a shadow slinking from the dark corners of the hallway, distant yet alarming. Another child? Were there more of us in this house of horrors? A flicker of hope ignited within me, igniting a flame of possibility. "Who else is there? Are there more children?" I asked, desperation underscoring my words, punctuated by the urgency that hung in the air. "Enough of this," the millionaire sneered, foreboding rolling from him in waves. "You think you're clever, but you're merely pawns in a game you cannot hope to win." And then Jessie gasped. "The window, we could escape through the window." Claire's eyes widened in wild hope, coupled with a flicker of doubt. "But it's too high," she started to say, glancing over her shoulder at the looming figure in disbelief. "No, it's worth a shot. We can't let him have control over us," I urged, heart racing as I calculated our retreat. I turned to Claire, desperation flooding my words. "Can you climb?" "Then that's what we'll do," Jessie insisted, stepping even closer to Claire, her small hand reaching for her friend's. Together, with a nod and an understanding that we were moving toward the uncertainty of freedom, we began making our way toward the window, but a sudden heavy hand landed on my shoulder, shackling me in place. "Where do you think you're going?" he seethed, steel threading through his voice, electrifying the air. And as I turned to face him, my heart pounding in my chest, a laugh erupted from his lips, dark and chilling. "You will regret this. I promise you that." The facade he wore cracked, the risk and the stakes heightened. The door behind us stood ajar, the promise of escape laced with trepidation. "Run!" I screamed, wrenching free from his grip, the three of us darting towards the window, the light of hope illuminating our path even as uncertainty clawed at our heels. But just as we reached it, the sound of footsteps echoed in the distance, enhancing every breath we took. The shadows loomed closer, our time was waning. And then it happened. Just as we flung the window open, a sudden crash resonated behind us, the unmistakable sound of the man's fury shattering every delicate bridge we were trying to cross. "Get back here!" he roared, his voice layered with desperation and wrath as the realization flooded over him was losing control, and we were choosing life. With adrenaline surging through our veins, we had no choice but to leap into the unknown, fingers intertwined in a show of defiance. But in that heady moment of movement, the shadows shifted again, dragging us back into a world we had yet to truly escape. The revelation of his fury ignited a hidden fire, intertwining our fates, as we bound ourselves together against the unknown into the heart of darkness that promised uncertainty, freedom, and the heart-wrenching cost of any hope of escape. The night air hit us like a wave as we threw ourselves through the open window, limbs tangling in a frenzy of motion. The chill punctured through our clothes, a stark contrast to the warmth of the adrenaline rushing just beneath the surface. My heart raced as I glanced back through the jagged void, the darkness of the room behind us now a suffocating void from which I hoped never to return. Claire was the first to land on her feet, her breath hitching as she turned to help Jessie glide down from the sill. I grabbed her hand and leaped, landing just beside them in a crumpled heap on the grass. The leaves whispered urgent secrets in the stillness of the night, and I could hear nothing but the sound of our frantic breathing, a reminder of how close we stood to losing everything. "Which way?" Jessie panted, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. The moon hung low, casting long shadows that danced and flitted across our path. Claire lifted her chin, eyes scanning the expansive grounds of the mansion. "Over there toward the trees," she insisted, pointing to the distant edge where the garden dissolved into dark woods. Each step felt vital, electric, and we abandoned the ache in our legs and the gnawing doubt that threatened to trip us, but just as we began to move, the grim echoes of that man's wrath chased us into the night, his booming voice splintering the air. "Don't let them escape," he yelled, each syllable dripping with venom that dug under my skin. The weight of his fury was like an anchor, threatening to pull us back. Fear propelled us forward, the trepidation mounting with each shifting shadow behind us. The darkness felt alive, watching, following, pulsating with a hunger that mirrored the wild throb of our hearts. "Faster!" I urged, glancing over my shoulder one last time. The outline of his figure loomed, the rage in his eyes reflected by the distant glow of lights from the mansion. As we neared the trees, I could feel the world narrowing around us, the secrets and horrors waiting back at that house burning in my mind. Every footfall was a choice, an act of defiance against the life we had momentarily fled. And I could feel Claire beside me, strands of determination weaving her into the thread of our escape, each shared breath tightening our bond under the weight of fear. Just as we hit the fringe of the woods, a jarring crash split the air behind us. An earlier thought rekindled in my mind, a desperate spark of hope that faded with every backward glance, now more potent than a flickering candle, dangerously bright in the oppressive darkness. "Claire!" I gasped as I noticed the tightening grip she had on Jessie, her face stoic yet crumbling under the tension that we need to keep moving, Claire whispered, voice laced with urgency but filled with lingering doubt, hurting my chest as I observed her struggle. We can't stop now, but what if Jessie started, her small frame quivering with emotion. What if he gets to us? What if he comes after us? He won't if we don't let him. We have to stick together. I will not let anyone tear us apart, Claire declared, a flicker of ferocious light igniting in her eyes. Meanwhile, the encroaching shadows in the trees seemed to whisper, taunting us, challenging our resolve. I wish I knew where to go, I murmured, unwilling to voice the thought that stalked behind me like a phantom. The darkness felt insatiable, ready to devour us whole, but Claire caught my gaze, shaking her head. No more second-guessing. We trust each other. We'll find a way out. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, well-worn photograph-framed memory of happier times. Holding it out to me, she said, "This is us the way we should be. We need to remember who we are, no matter what happens." I grasped the photo, reverence crashing over me as I looked at the image of laughter frozen in time, a reminder that freedom was not just a dream but also a possibility. With each step deeper into the woods, I felt Jessie's presence beside us, unyielding and fierce, a reflection of the hope we were fighting for. But then, just as we thought we could breathe, a rustle of branches interrupted the night, and I froze. My heart slammed against my ribcage as we turned, eyes wide, just in time to see another figure emerging from the bushes, its features cloaked in shadow. "Who are you?" Claire demanded, her voice hardly steady but laced with the ferocity of someone unwilling to back down. "Please, don't be afraid," the figure called out, stepping into the faint light. "I'm not here to hurt you." The pulse of the earth beneath my feet quickened oddly with a tinge of confusion as we exchanged wary glances. I struggled to determine if I should be relieved or alert. "Who are you?" I repeated more forcefully, the panic creeping back in as the figure stepped closer, half hidden by the moonlight. "I'm a friend of Claire," they said, voice gentle yet urgent. "I've been trying to find you. We need to hurry. They're going to come after you." My breath caught, the revelation punching the air from my mouth. "What do you mean? Who are you? How do you know her?" I demanded, feeling a turmoil of uncertainty rise like bile in my throat. Claire's expression twisted in fear, a depth of pain indicating that the truth of her past was still tangled in unknown threads, and I realized that the shadows closing in on us were alive with secrets that ran deeper than any we could fathom. "I promise you, there's so much more at stake. If they find you here," the figure continued, their words fading in urgency as the moment pressed in around us, and just as I was about to unfold a question leading to the heart of this unexpected revelation, the sound of footsteps resonated through the underbrush, the distant echo of familiar voices approaching, and it smothered the last speck of hope within us. "Run!" Claire shouted, her startled eyes locking with mine in a moment of unbreakable understanding. The price of safety was dissonant with the sacrifice we had to make once more as the shadows of our past converged, threatening to sweep us back into a fate we had fought so hard against. In that final heartbeat suspended between trust and chaos, everything began to shatter again, propelling us into the unknown as the world splintered around us, tangling once more in the threads of secrets unspooled just beyond reach. The thudding footsteps grew louder, closing in on us like a clock counting down to midnight. Every heartbeat felt amplified, each breath a reckless gamble with fate. I locked eyes with Claire, her determination flickered like a candle caught in a gust of wind, but even then, we could still see the glimmers of hope, tiny stars that connected us like invisible threads. "Quick!" I urged, adrenaline pumping. We turned toward the depths of the woods, hearts in sync as we ran. Jessie clutched my hand, her small fingers squeezing tightly, desperate for reassurance. "What if they catch us?" she whimpered, vulnerability bleeding through her bravado. "They won't." I turned to her, trying to weave strength into my voice. "We're stronger together." Each of Claire's fiery decisiveness breathed life into our fading spirits. Just when we thought we had found some space, the figure from the shadows pressed closer, urgency sharpening their features. "This way. We need to take cover," they urged, motioning toward a narrow gap between towering trees that twisted like ancient sentinels. The figure moved fluidly, almost gliding through the undergrowth, and we followed suit without questioning, propelled forward by the sheer force of survival. My heart thrummed so loudly, I almost missed the pained wail that slipped from Jessie's lips as she stumbled over a concealed root, sending her sprawling onto the damp ground. "Jessie." Claire's voice broke as she knelt beside her, the light of the moon slipping through the leaves and illuminating the concern etched on her face. "Are you all right?" I think I twisted my ankle," Jessie whimpered, tears pooling in her eyes, shining like dew against the sorrow of the night. My chest tightened. For every ounce of strength Claire and I poured into each moment, Jessie's struggle felt like a crack widening in our fragile resolve that we can't stop, we have to keep moving. I pleaded, but Claire shook her head as she lifted Jessie. "No. We can't leave her behind." The figure glanced back at us, urgency driving their gaze. "If they catch us here, it's over. We need to move. I swear I will help her. Just trust me." The word stung. Trust felt like the distant light on a horizon we'd yet to reach, but in the heavy air hung fate's unrelenting grip. And then I saw it, a flicker of something in the figure's eyes, worry, perhaps. Or something deeper, counting on us as much as we counted on them. Okay. I relented, knowing the choice before us lay not just in bravery but in survival. "Let's go." With a flurry of whispers and urgency, Claire threw one arm around Jessie's waist while the figure steadied her other side, forming a makeshift cocoon of support, propelling forward. My heart thudded, fear and determination clawing at me as we trudged onward. Each step felt heavier as we navigated the foliage, the shadows stretching into monstrous forms, as if they were intent on consuming us whole. Yet, within the periphery of dread, unexpected kindness flickered against the night. A touch here, a firm hold there, the unseen bond weaving tighter among us. As we rounded a heavy cluster of trees, the figure drew up short, pointing toward the remains of an old stone structure almost entirely engulfed in ivy and shadow. "There. We can hide inside." The urgency pulsed within us, the safety of the crumbling walls promising solitude from the encroaching danger. But before we could take another step, the echoing sound of branches snapping crunched ominously behind, and my breath faltered. "Stay low." The figure hissed, pushing us gently toward the entrance, their own body tense against the shadows. We slipped inside, the cloistered space swallowing us in darkness, an unwelcoming embrace entwined with fear and uncertainty. "Who are you?" I dared to ask in the quiet that followed, the pulse of my heart a steady drum in my ears. "My name is Aiden," they whispered, urgency bleeding into every honeysuckle tone. "I was sent to help you." "Sent by who?" Claire's sharp inquiry felt like a weapon, the strength of her spirit filling the damp corners of our refuge. "My father," Aiden replied, their words tumbling like a cascade of secrets. "He cares about you, Claire." The shock rippled through me, igniting questions and a churn of discontent. "You must be mistaken. Who is your father, the man who needs you? The man you think you escaped? He's not just any man, he's the one who holds the key to your freedom." "Freedom?" Jessie chimed, her voice fragile and trembling. The silence that followed felt suffocating as Claire's expression shifted, a mix of realization and a haunting flicker of vulnerability, like a mirror reflecting all our fears back at us. "You mean he's been looking for me?" "Yes," Aiden said carefully, a well of emotion brimming under the surface. "He has reasons. He wants to bring you back to safety." "Safety?" Claire's voice broke with disbelief, but there was something else in her eyes, a flicker of longing that echoed deep within me, stirring doubts I had fought to suppress. Footsteps resonated outside the stone walls, the deep voices barely registering in the wane of possibility and trepidation. Time felt suspended, the weight of every decision crashing over me like an impending storm. "We don't have much time. We need to move again, and I can introduce you to him," Aiden urged, urgency spilling from them like a cascading wave. The weight of the imminent choice settled in the marrow of my bones. Trust hung precariously between hope and betrayal, taut enough to snap under the pressure of what loomed the shadows of a life we thought we had evaded, now converging in ways we never could have anticipated. And before I could voice the spiraling questions trapped within my mind, a chilling revelation silenced the very air around us. A voice out there, rising into the night, slicing through our fear like a knife. "I know you're in there. Don't think you can hide from me." It was him. The man we had run from was now drawing near, the echo of his fury merging seamlessly with the unresolved threads of our tangled lives. And with that dreadful truth hanging over us like the very noose we fought to break free from, a new wave of panic crashed in, setting our fates on a collision course we had yet to comprehend. The cacophony of racing footsteps and the rising voice outside forged an impenetrable barrier of dread. My heart thudded unrelentingly in my chest, each beat a loud reminder of our precarious situation. Claire's eyes darted from Aidan to the shadowy entrance, her face pale, the flicker of hope she clutched now dimming under the weight of reality. "What do we do?" Jessie asked, her voice a fragile thread as she leaned heavily against Claire. I could feel the tremors of fear coursing through her small frame. Aidan's face hardened, determination casting a shadow over their youthful features. "We have to be quiet. If we don't provoke him, maybe he'll give up. He can't know we're here." I wanted to believe Aidan. My instincts screamed at me to do anything but face the man whose menacing presence had pushed us into this endless night. Yet, my mind raced with unsaid possibilities as Claire stared at Aidan like they held the key to something unimaginably important. "The man you're protecting us from, he isn't just my captor," Claire whispered, her voice barely breaking the silence that ensnared us. "He's my father." The shock of her words settled heavily between us, the realization soaking into the air thick with tension. My eyes widened, and I felt an invisible weight tethering us all together through shared horror. Here was the truth, raw and unyielding. Could our fates be so intricately woven? "Your father?" Aidan echoed, their brow furrowing. "But I thought he is." Claire interjected, urgency creeping into her tone as she turned desperate eyes on Jessie and me. "He's dangerous. He needs control," and I thought running away from him was the answer. But I didn't know the harsh whisper of footsteps outside stopped us short. My heart stopped, and I strained to hear. The harsh timbre of muffled commands nestled snugly within the shadows, brushing against our sanctuary like an unwelcome specter. "Let's move." One of the voices barked. "We're not leaving without them." Panic bubbled up within me, but Aidan's hand shot out, gripping my shoulder. Their eyes were fierce and focused, igniting an ember of confidence. "We'll find a way. But we need to stay calm, we're not out of options yet." Jessie gripped Claire's hand tighter, her eyes reflecting her trust in her sister, but uncertainty pockmarked her small features. "What if we face him? What if he hurts you?" Claire's breath hitched at Jessie's words, her resolve flickering like a candle in the wind. "If it comes to that, he'll do what it takes to protect you. You have to promise me to stay behind." "Don't say that." I snapped, a sense of urgency echoing in my words. "You're not going to sacrifice yourself. We face this together." Aidan's sharp gaze landed on me, perceptive and pressing. "You can't allow fear to control your actions. You need to think strategically. Is dangerous, but you can outsmart him. We just need a distraction." "Nobody's going to leave each other," I stated, making a pact I hoped we could keep. Strengthening my grip on Jessie's shoulder, I drew Claire closer, grounding us in this storm of uncertainty. Then, time seemed to stretch impossibly thin like a fragile spider silk weaving between past choices and present realities. I realized that the threads binding us had shifted again, this time between echoes of family, blood ties, and the complex layers of safety versus betrayal. "It'll distract him," I said suddenly, surprised by my own bravery. "I can draw him away." "Aidan, you know where to go?" Aidan nodded solemnly, weighing my words against their gravity. "It's risky, but if it works, we can slip around and find safety." "We have to move now." Aidan pulled Claire and Jessie close, whispering instructions as I turned my back to the entrance, willing courage to fill the void of my doubt. The footsteps had grown fainter. I grasped at the fleeting possibility that we could still escape, that maybe Aidan's knowledge could guide us. When I finally looked back at Claire, her eyes shone with a mix of determination and something else, something heavy. "You have to promise me we'll come back for you. Promise me you'll follow the plan," I shot back. Softly, my eyes searching hers, hunting for any sign of fear or hesitance I could dispel. But there was only resolve now, bright like a pale sun filtering through unsettling clouds that I promise, she whispered, and in that moment, the boundary between life and sorrow narrowed, binding us through this unseen labyrinth of pain and hope. As Aiden edged towards the entrance, the air grew taut with expectancy, thick with the power of decisions made in crisis. My heart raced in tempo with time, and I took a breath, preparing myself for the worst as I stepped forward into the depths of the shadows, where the unknown had now morphed into desperate possibilities. With a final glance over my shoulder, I saw Jessie's small form nestled against Claire's, an unspoken bond anchoring us all together as the shadows loomed deeper. And then, my voice broke the silence once more. "Hey! I'm right here." The world outside erupted into chaos as I drew my father's attention, my heart a drum of recklessness as I surged into the unknown. But just as the shadows consumed me, a chilling revelation slithered through my thoughts, one I had not dared voice until now. What if Claire's father wasn't just after her? What if finding her was only the beginning of a grander scheme, a twisted web threatening to entangle us all? And with that, the darkness of the night swallowed me whole, leaving behind the haunting echo of questions that had yet to find their answer. The fragments of my heart echoed through the chill of darkness as I sprinted into the unknown, the bitter truth of my decision heavy on my back. The cries of urgency behind me faded as adrenaline drove me further into the shadows. The chaotic footsteps rushed towards me, and with each step I took, I felt the weight of 1,000 choices pressing down, urging me to question the road I was on. Ahead, I could just make out the stilted figure of a man blocking my path, illuminated by the dim light filtering from the building's broken windows. His silhouette was unmistakable. It was the man whose presence had become an omnipresent nightmare, the specter I had hoped to evade. I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat more solid than ever, yet I pressed on, intent on drawing him away from Claire and Jessie. "Here I am," I shouted, forcing bravado into my voice despite the quakes threatening to break me apart. "Looking for me? Come on, I'm not afraid of you." The response was immediate, his head turned sharply in my direction, the glow of his eyes flickering with a wicked mixture of surprise and interest. For a moment, I could see the desperate, twisted logic that drove his actions, and even more horrifying was the realization that it bore the shadow of blood. "Me blood, what do you want?" he snarled, the words barely out of his mouth before he lunged toward me with unsettling speed. I flinched, dodging just in time. Pain shot through my side as I felt his fingertips graze my shirt, a stark reminder of how far my gamble had pushed me into his grasp. "Let go of them," I screamed, my lungs burning. "You don't need them. This is between us." Yet, as I darted further into the depths of the alley, my thoughts spiraled. If Claire was his daughter, and I was his, then we were all tethered by an unseen chain, and my actions weren't merely selfish bravery, they were a betrayal that could endanger them all. Confusion tangled with resolve, and as I ran, my mind raced through every potential outcome, my heart hammering against the fear I dared not let surface. Behind me, the echoes of pursuit slashed through the air, the bitter scent of desperation mixing with the cold night. Just as my legs began to falter, some glimmer of hope had me skidding to a halt. The alley opened up into a small park, moonlight bathing it in an alluring glow, yet trepidation lay thick in the air. I turned just in time to see him emerge from the mouth of the alley, a grim silhouette backlit by the moon, eyes narrowed, cut with feverish intent. I found myself wishing for a moment that I knew the park better, that I would have places to hide, shadows to duck into. Instead, I was left vulnerable, caught in the web spun between my family's past and my desperate need to protect the future. "Why did you flee, little rabbit?" he taunted, his voice dripping with contempt. "You can't hide forever. You'll just bring more trouble down on yourself." For a second, his words wormed their way into my mind, unearthing seeds of doubt. I thought of Jessie and Claire, the trust they had placed in my hands, the unyielding bond we'd forged despite the tragedy closing in around us. I wouldn't let that crumble. "You think you can control everything, don't you? That you can choose who lives and who suffers?" With each breath trembling on the edge of conviction, I took a step back, relishing the fact that fear had knotted itself within his voice. "But you can't control me." As dawn began to thread through the landscape, I felt emboldened by the fragile flicker of hope igniting in my chest. The darkness pressing in felt less like a suffocating prison and more like an opportunity to rise from the ashes of despair. I will fight for what's right, for them. Then, a swift movement broke my moment of courage. Engulfed in shadows, I wasn't alone. A figure emerged, stepping from behind the park's weathered trees, the moonlight illuminating their determined face. My breath caught in my throat. It was Claire, her eyes wild but unwavering, drawn out like a moth to a flame. "Claire, no!" I yelled, panic gripping me anew as I saw her. Resolve melded into something more dangerous. "Get back! He's not who you think he is," yet the fire in her eyes didn't flicker, it flared. "He's my father. I know what he is capable of. I can't let you do this alone." The revelation knocked the air from my lungs. Where had the quiet sister I knew gone? Standing before me was a warrior, both a challenge and an ally in our spiraling struggle for freedom. The ground beneath my feet quaked with energy, igniting sparks of defiance. How had the roles shifted so drastically? "They'll do whatever it takes just like you," she responded fiercely, her voice rising against the night's hopelessness. The fight that lay before us became a shared struggle, deeper and more sacred than I had anticipated. In that moment, the shadows fell back for just a heartbeat as we stood together, intertwined by the weight of our choices. But behind us, the looming specter of Claire's father remained, a shadow poised to strike. Then, from an unexpected corner of the park, a familiar voice called out in the stillness. "Claire! You have to listen to him, Jesse." The smallest voice that wielded the sharpest truth. I turned just as the fear in Claire's eyes morphed into panic, linking us back to the shimmering threads that kept us together, yet driving a wedge of uncertainty deep into our hearts. "No. Jesse, go!" Claire cried, anguish painting her features as footsteps thundered closer. "Stay away," but as Jessie stepped further, defiance shining in her innocent eyes, I felt the collective weight of our lives amass against the tide of darkness. The shock of realizing that Jessie had been here all along crystallized my uncertainty. The connection binding us was both a beacon and a snare in this cacophony of despair. "That we need to go!" I screamed, the hyperbolic weight of time pressing upon us. As I turned my eyes back to Claire's father, I found not only a father cloaked in malice but a dark truth we had yet to grasp. Fulami rebellion wasn't just against him, it was against all the cycles of pain that ensnared us. And just as Claire took a step forward, the ground trembled, and a cold realization washed over me, slick with dread. What if this confrontation wasn't merely about survival, but a reckoning destined to unfold with consequences untold? In that split second, as the three of us stood huddled together, the blood ties and friendships intertwining in a defiant stand against darkness, a chilling whisper swept through the air, tainting our resolve. "The greatest secrets are those that bind us. Do you really believe you can escape what is written in your blood?" The night shrieked, and I felt the air shrink around us, each haunting word igniting a new and terrible question we could not yet grasp. What had we plunged ourselves into, and what unseen truths threatened to unravel it all? The specter of uncertainty grew closer as the barriers of our fragile alliance began to fracture. The weight of unspoken fears pressed heavily against my chest as I stood there in the park with Claire and Jessie, the air crackling with uncertainty. The shadows stretched longer, painted by the breath of dawn, yet every shimmer of light brought no comfort. Instead, it illuminated the cracks in our fragile alliance, where too many secrets lurked, gnashing their teeth at the present. "Do you think we can run?" Claire whispered, her determination wavering. The bold warrior I had seen moments before now seemed a little girl, lost in the chaos of family and obligation, on the brink of shattering into confusion. "Running has never been an option," I muttered, my voice barely a murmur against the din of my pounding heart. "But if we stand together, maybe we can face him." Before Claire could respond, another voice pierced the tension, unexpected, familiar, like a lifeline thrown amid tempestuous seas. "There you are." Thomas emerged from behind the dilapidated park bench, breath clouding in the cold air, his presence like an anchor in the storm. He stood there, eyes wide, searching each of us for answers he feared we might not have. "Thomas!" I exclaimed, relief and panic flooding through me. "What are you doing here? I saw you run." "I couldn't just stay there. You're all in danger." His gaze flitted to Claire's father looming in the background, then back to us, his expression tightening with resolve. "We need to get moving." The warmth of his concern enveloped me, an unexpected reminder that through the darkness, there remained kindness in the world. "You shouldn't have come," Claire muttered, her voice catching slightly, the flicker of courage now wavering under the weight of new worries. The atmosphere hung heavy, thickening with the combination of shared memories and heavy burdens. Jessie pressed against my side, her small hand squeezing mine. It was a tether powerful and reassuring. For a moment, we were just children standing in the eerie glow of dawn, bound by promises and dreams, not by the horrors that awaited us. "That I can't let you face him alone, even if he is your father, Claire." Slowly, Thomas stepped forward, determination etched on his face. "We're family. All of us." His words ignited something within me, an ember of unity despite the chaos laying ahead. "Yes, we may share blood with different histories, but we are a family forged through our trials. We cannot abandon that now," I said, my voice carrying more strength than I felt. That as Claire nodded, a glint of hope flickered through her eyes, and I could feel the collective breath of determination. That very moment felt precious, a spark in the suffocating dark, but the silence was shattered by a low chuckle echoing from Claire's father, creeping closer on the threshold of our tenuous alliance. "You think that makes you stronger?" His voice oozed mockery, snapping our fragile resolve. "Family bonds survive perseverance but crumble under the weight of betrayal. You think you know loyalty, yet here you are ready to sacrifice everyone for your own selfish desire to escape." The venom in his voice hit like ice, burrowing into the heart of our unity, and I felt the fissures crack within us. The shadows of his words slithered into our minds, raising questions that simmered just beneath the surface. "Betrayal," Claire breathed, her voice trembling. "Is that what we're doing?" "No," I exclaimed, stepping closer, shielding her with my presence. "We are not betraying anyone. We are fighting against a darkness that seeks to control us, to manipulate our very bonds against each other. Then let's fight together." Jessie piped up, her voice ringing true and loud, a beacon amidst the chaos. At her innocent proclamation, I saw our paths illuminated by her courage, yet that same glow faded against the reckoning ahead. But just as conviction appeared to ignite flame in our hearts, that glimmer was extinguished by Claire's father stepping boldly forward, a dark shadow stalking ever closer. "Together? How lovely! You really think fighting me will change the inevitable? Your fates are intertwined. The truth of your blood is a cycle you cannot break. It will forever bind you." Suddenly, the air around us stilled as the weight of his words lingered, heavy with implications none of us had fully grasped. Each heartbeat pulsed with questions that danced lightly on the unsettling edge of reality. As I stood there, the brightening day dulled beneath the echo of his dark proclamation. "Run!" I shouted, adrenaline flooding my veins as I turned, urging Claire, Jessie, and Thomas forward, desperate to escape the malevolence building in the space around us. But as our feet thundered against the cold pavement, a devastating realization struck me: we could run forever, yet the specter of our family truths would always loom behind. And just before we reached the safety of the street, the walls of the park crumbled around us in a deluge of shadows, and behind us, Claire's father spoke words that twisted through the air like smoke: "You can't escape your fate. The blood of the blind children runs deeper than you think." The echo of his voice lingered, melding with the pounding rhythm of our footsteps as we fled into an uncertain future. But in that moment, shrouded in fear and urgency, the knot of secrets tightened, tangling ever so tightly around my heart, the haunting truth whispering through my mind: what did it mean to be bound by blood, and would we ever escape from the destinies written before us? The rain poured down in sheets as we ran, a symphony of chaos reflecting our tumultuous journey. The world blurred, a mixture of shadows and light weaving together like the echoes of the lives we desperately sought to escape. Every raindrop softened the harsh reality we had stumbled into, yet it could not wash away the fear clinging to us like a second skin. As we sprinted past flickering streetlights, Claire's expression was a portrait of conflict, her father's words swirling around her like a tempest, knotting around her heart, but I felt her resolve hardening. She was no longer just the daughter of a powerful man, she was a fighter, a beacon of hope forged in the fires of despair. Jessie leaned heavily against her, fragmented breaths mingling with those of the torrential rainfall. but the unyielding spirit in her small frame kindled a warmth that defied the storm that we can't stop. "We've come too far," I yelled, trying to push the weight of fear from my chest. The shadows loomed behind us, fangs poised to strike as dusk fell further, enveloping us in uncertainty. "Where do we go?" Thomas' voice cracked, drenched with urgency. There was an Aegean emotional fracture that threatened to widen into despair, yet I could sense the tethering bond between us. We were more than friends or blood, we were a family bound by shared struggles, stitched together by loyalty and defiance, anywhere but here. I urged, tightened my grip on Jessie's hand, steering Claire and Thomas into the heart of the city, the rain drumming its own rhythm as if urging us onward. That it wasn't long before we stumbled into a murky alley, hidden from the prying eyes of the world. The distant sounds of the city became muffled whispers, remnants of a life that felt far away. "We have to regroup," I said, breathless and soaked to the bone. "We need to come up with a plan." Claire nodded, resolve reigniting behind her eyes like the last flicker of flame in a hearth. "The old gallery," she said softly, a flicker of remembrance sparking. "We can go there. I know a way inside." A rush of hope coursed through me. "Then let's move," I urged, pushing down the exhaustion that threatened to claw at my resolve as I led the charge. As we navigated the twisting alleys, the mood shifted. The shadows that had birthed our fears wavered and began transforming into shadows of possibilities, glimmers of light twisting through despair. Claire walked a step ahead, a new determination radiating from her as if freedom was not just an ideal but a tangible thing she could grasp. We approached the gallery in silence. It loomed, a weathered building enshrined in layers of paint peeling away like tales yet untold. The air turned thick with anticipation. "I used to come here when I wanted to think. It might be the only place I can feel safe," she whispered, her voice tremoring like the flickering light outside. As we settled inside the dimly lit corridor of the gallery, Jessie leaned against the warm wall, her small body shivering less from fear and more from the chill of the empty air surrounding us. We locked the door and huddled together, forming our own cocoon against the perils lurking just outside. "Tell me more about your father," I urged Claire, my voice low, steady. "What does he want?" Her gaze dropped as raw memories flashed across her face, moments tangled with love, rage, and sorrow unfurling like tendrils of smoke. "Power. Control. I was the perfect trophy, hidden away to be admired but never truly touched. He never wanted me to live outside of his shadow." Her words struck a chord deep within, reminding me of my own struggles, how fear can imprison those who have indeed been blinded by love and familial ties. "But we will free you," I insisted, clutching Jessie and Thomas close as I met Claire's gaze, willing her to see the truth in my eyes. "You have to believe that. Together, we can break free from those shadows." Hope flickered momentarily, but her uncertainty gnawed at me. I could see the struggle for freedom fused with coming to terms with her lineage, the chains of blood that felt like shackles yet were crafted from love. Just then, a chilling realization settled over us. The ominous thumping of footsteps echoed through the outside world. My heart plummeted as dread filled the air. They were close. Claire's father would not relent, he would seek to reclaim her with the ferocity of a storm, and I could almost hear the shadows stretching toward us, weaving tales of fate and loss. "The only way to fight him is by confronting the truth," I breathed deeply, feeling the weight of our situation wrapping around my senses. Before Claire could respond, the door rattled violently, and we all jumped, instinctively pulling together as a family does in moments of fear. A booming voice resonated through the walls, "I know you're in there. It's time to come home." I turned to Claire, desperation tightening my chest. "This is it. You have to choose who you want to be." Her expression hardened, facial contours shifting as a mask of unwavering resolve emerged. "I choose to fight," she declared fiercely, voice unwavering in spite of the turmoil coursing through her veins. "And we will fight alongside you," Thomas added, his presence radiating determination. Jessie clasped Claire's hand in solidarity, offering little whispers of courage in the dense air. But then Claire's eyes fell on me, the urgency sharp. "The truth, it will set us free, won't it? My heart threatened to crack as uncertainty tangled with promise. It won't be easy, but it's the only way to break the chains holding us captive. A deep breath hung heavy in the air, fraught with tension, but we had each other. As eyes danced around the room exchanging silent vows of resilience and unity, I felt an unmistakable connection warm my heart. We were ready to confront our shadows and redefine what it meant to be bound by blood. Just then, the door burst open, and Claire's father stood tall and unforgiving, dark eyes glimmering with a menacing hunger. Panic surged through my veins, yet I could see fire igniting in Claire's gaze that would burn brighter than any fear ever could. "Enough!" Claire shouted, her voice commanding, echoing through the hollow walls, and with it lay her strength, her choice emerging boldly from within the shadows. "You will no longer control me." The air crackled with electricity as the room shifted, a powerful intersection of choices, blood, and the essence of family. I stood, frozen in awe, realizing the significance of Claire's declaration. She was finally releasing the bindings of her past, stepping into the realm of her becoming. In that charged moment, where shadows danced to the rhythm of truth and defiance, I knew the climax lay ahead, the visceral confrontation pitting bonds against freedom. Whatever the outcome, we would face it as a family, embracing the beautiful vulnerability that defined us, unearthing stones long unturned, and in doing so, reclaiming our lives from the twisted web of control. Together, I breathed, heart swelling with an inexplicable warmth, the tether cemented not by blood but by resilience in the face of darkness. And as we stood together, ready to confront the shadows threatening us, it seemed the truth was on the cusp of liberation, waiting to unfurl in a radiant shimmer, catharsis poised to engulf us all. Claire, voice steady and fierce, faced her father. "No more lies, no more chains. We will break free, and I will shine." And in the strength of her words, the echoes of regret, love, and freedom all intertwined, a promise resonating with grace. Her fate was no longer a weight but a wish set free to rise above shadows, ready to illuminate the darkness that had once sought to consume her. As Claire's breath hung in the air, a palpable pulse of hope surged around us, binding woven not in chains but in the warmth of connection, the beauty of love, and the embrace of a family chosen rather than feared. "Together we rise," I echoed, stepping firmly beside her, ready to break the chains that sought to bind us and illuminate the path forward in the dawn of our choice, where darkness and light would clash, paving a way to freedom we never imagined we could reclaim. And as our fates converged in that moment, the final twist beneath the weight of expectation fell upon us. Love would conquer. The bonds would be forged anew, not in the blood of our past, but in the promise of tomorrow, and that truth is what would forever transform us, what would echo through the marrow of our being, strong enough to defy the very shadows of the world around us. Together, we're unstoppable. And with those final words, we stepped forward, hearts entwined in defiance of everything that sought to tear us apart, a family forever marked by courage, love, and the legacy of breaking free. For in the heart of darkness, we had found our light, a bond unbreakable, illuminating the path toward freedom, and propelling us beyond the constraints of fear, into a future we dared to embrace.